going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to the IEM Expo here in beautiful Katowice, Poland. It is time to kick off the ESL Katowice Royale International Tournament. That's right, we have 100 of the best players from all corners of the globe. We have 28 different nationalities represented right here on this stage, fighting out for a prize pool of $500,000. Truly an exciting time to be part of Fortnite. My name is Onset. I'll be your desk host for the next 3 days, but I've got to talk about the wonderful gentleman I've got alongside me as well. Starting off at the end there, Mr. Speedy Gonzalez, looking fabulous. How are you doing, buddy?
Thank you so much, Onset. I'm so excited to be here live from Poland, where it is freezing. I'm not going to lie to you. But the gameplay tonight is guaranteed to be hot. And how can it not be hot? Absolutely. When there's a volcano on the map.
Absolutely. I mean, Season 8 is upon us. Jason Kaplan, we have you alongside me as well. Great to have you here, buddy. And as I say, we've kept Tomato Temple, but it's disappeared in Season 8, but we've got it here. It's more of a shrine at this point. Season 8, though, it's upon us.
It's going to be great. Season 8, the fact is all these players get to come into this with the volcano on the map now as well to change things up, with some areas being taken out. Rest in peace, Wailing Woods. But this is going to be exciting because, like you said, we have the best players in the world here now participating, and this is 100% the most competitive tournament we've ever had.
Absolutely, and of course, it's not just these guys on the desk as well. We want to hear from you guys at home. Show us where you're watching. Show us some photos of where you're watching from. Get your questions in for the players involved in the tournament, as well as the guys on the desk as well. How do you do that? It's a very good question. Use the hashtag ESL Katowice Royale, or you can get in touch on Facebook, as you can see below. So make sure you get your questions in for the guys on the desk, because we're pretty excited about this. I mean, we've got us guys on the desk. We're pretty excited at the moment. Baller backstage at the moment is literally bouncing around. Like, he cannot contain himself. He's all over the place.
He's so excited, and why not? I mean, we have a crowd here in the audience participating in this, getting involved as well. The players participating. I mean, the thing is, he did the secret skirmish last week, but with no one there to watch, right? And just like the players feed off the energy of the audience, so do we.
Absolutely. Bala just jumping up and down on the balls of his feet. So excited. And he's, you know, last week he was in, or 2 weeks ago, he was in secret skirmish, teaching us a lot of things as well. Great guy to be on the team.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this isn't the first weekend of action. We were here last weekend as well, where we had our Polish competitors find it out. And fantastic stuff from them, gentlemen. We were really impressed with some of their gameplay.
Yeah, 100%. The thing is, we came into this, I mean, into a region where we don't know a ton about the players. It's hard to really dive into what they could bring to the table, but I think almost everyone out there has been very impressed with what they were able to do as well. I mean, we had Jarkos, like this player stand out, win the solo tournament himself, and really prove there's a lot of players here in Poland to fight with.
Absolutely. Jarkos won the solos last week, and he's actually taking Nick's Merck's spot in the solos today. So we're going to be able to see him, you know, compete and hopefully bring it home. You know, a couple of other Polish players here as well.
And on that note, we have some new names kind of coming up to the ranks, rising up, right? We also have some names that we expected to do really well last week, fall by the wayside. But they have the redemption chance here, right? They have their chance to get back into this and prove that they deserve to be here.
Absolutely. Second chances. You love to see them.
All right, obviously, we need to give a shout-out to Richard and Motas as well, who won the duos. But there's one man we haven't introduced. He's the man who's going to keep you up to date with absolutely everything that's happening in the audience, down on the floor. It's one of my favorite humans in the world. It's Adam Savage.
Oh, hi, Mark. Thank you, firstly, so much for that epic introduction. Cringe in the chat. My name is Adam Savage. I am over the moon to be your stage host at the course of the next few days here at the ESL Katowice Royale. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. Of course, this weekend we have solos today, and the next 2 days we have duos. And this is the exciting part. In duos, points count across to the next day. What? That's crazy. All of our players here are, of course, competing for a chunk of that cheddar. $500,000. That's $500,000, baby. That's some serious, serious money. I can't wait to see what happens. Now, my role actually as stage host here comprises of a few key things. The first thing is player interviews. Over the next few days, of course, I'll be center stage interviewing our winners over the course of solos and duos per game. I'm looking forward to that. Of course, I get the happy stuff. I can also present the trophies to our champions as well. Yes, good times. And last but no means least, arguably the best thing, I get to hype up this lovely crowd as well. Audience, are you excited for the ESL Katowice Royale? Make some noise for the players! They're getting there. They're getting there. The energy is not going to drop. Trust me, it's not going to drop at all. If it drops, I'll drop them. Seriously. Seriously. Mark, speaking of which, when Are we dropping, baby? I answer my pants. I can't wait to get started.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, we can get you up here at some point. I know you kind of invaded the stage last time, but it's more of an open invitation this time.
Thank you.
You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And you're looking great.
I've got to say as well, Mark, it is so nice to see a fellow Brit there rocking Tomato Temple. You're doing an amazing job. I absolutely love it. You know, your diction, the elocution, you know, the vocabulary, you got some serious Shakespearean swagger going on, my friend.
It's too kind of you.
You would have swept up in the 17th century.
Oh, thank you, thank you. It's a bit out of my, age range.
I meant like a chimney sweep. That's what I was.
Rude.
Never mind.
From Adam. Thanks, Adam. We're going to move you away now. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
You were being nice, and then apparently that's what I'm in for the whole time we're here. So never mind. Adam, maybe we'll hear from you again. We're not sure. Anyway, let's talk about one of the players who we kind of mentioned a little bit, who is our wildcard entry for the solos today. Like Adam mentioned, we have our solos competition for today, $100,000 on the line. Yakos, I mean, what an incredible performance he had last weekend. What a great guy he is. What impressed you about this young man?
I think his calmness under pressure. I feel like it's one of his first times here on stage in front of an audience, playing in front of a home crowd. And when you go to events like this, it's not easy to transition from playing at home in front of your own computer, you know, whatever you're wearing, your own chair, and being able to play at the same kind of level here now in front of the stage, in front of people cheering you on. And he's really impressed me in how he can keep that composure.
That's right. These players are competing in front of a live audience today. But as I mentioned last week, it's just like riding a bicycle. Once you load into the lobby, you just kind of focus in, tunnel into, draw on months of experience, and you just, get into the flow.
And I think what I love best is that he didn't even know he would be playing in this tournament today when he went into his own solos for the Polish edition. He won the whole tournament, then he come out like, oh, I'm playing in next week as well, where the prize money is even higher, and I'm playing against even better players. Like, this is his chance to really break through and make a name for himself.
Yeah, last week was just a warm-up for him.
Yeah.
You can see the standings there of, obviously picking up that win at the end. He had a couple of victory royales in there. He had a second place in there as well. His consistency was really impressive, but the eliminations, that was what stood out for me. But
that's a good point. And that's something we have to talk about now, Speedy, is that this format is different than what we had just in the Secret Skirmish. Every elimination counts. Every elimination is worth 5 points. And with Stormwings being taken out now with Season 8, which is a very important factor, people have to play more aggressive. And if you played in that Polish tournament and now you come into this, you know that. You know that you have to be a little bit more aggressive. You have to be a little bit more aggressive into how you go for these kind of eliminations. And you need to get those points on the board. You can't play passive and play for placing.
Absolutely. What I expect to see in Game 1 is, players kind of feeling each other out. However, because this is a new format for some of these players, they've been practicing Pop-Up Cup in the past, and this is a format that they haven't really had, the opportunity to scrim and practice too much. So I definitely expect them to feel it out. But Jarkos definitely felt it out last week. He's going to come in feeling pretty confident.
And of course, we've got the changes of Season 8 as well. So there's a few, headaches for a few players to think about where they're going to be dropping, etc. But we've got to remind ourselves of what these guys are playing for as well. $100,000 on the line. For a lot of these guys, they've made some huge money already in their competitive Fortnite career. But $100,000, yes, you can see here. For first place, $20,000 in the bank. And you can see how the breakdown is there. That's such a huge amount of money to be competing for.
That's a lot of Yeezys.
That's a lot, that's a lot of Yeezys.
I actually think it's interesting, too, because if you look at the total standings of earnings across Fortnite, we're potentially going to have some mix-ups here because Tifu's not here to maintain and to fight for his #1 position. Now we have Bizzle coming in with about 16,400 difference between the two. This is his chance to overtake him, to overthrow him.
If Bizzle manages to go home with $17,000, he becomes the most winningest player in Fortnite.
Yeah, all up until later on with the World Cup as well.
Everything's going to change. From
but that's still impressive.
We're seeing the leaderboards change, but it is a chance for Bizzle to certainly put his marker down. Let's have a look at the schedule, though, for today, gentlemen, because obviously we've got a lot of games for today. We've got 7 rounds to get through, and you can see the first one will be kicking off at around 2:20 local time, and then every single hour, or even less than that, we were getting straight into games today. We have another game coming. They're coming thick, they're coming fast, and not a lot of time for people to maybe adjust. It's kind of game after game. You got to be on your ball.
That's a perfect point, actually, the adjusting factor. Because last week we did have, after Game 2, a nice little break for players to eat lunch and to give some time to think things over. Now you don't have that opportunity, right? Now you play one match and you basically have to go straight into the next one after about 15 minutes of time. So your chance to think things through and figure out what do I need to do differently in this next game, that's been shut on you. You have to adapt mid-game, and I think that's where the Polish players are going to have the biggest advantage, knowing that they played last week, they know how this kind of format works, and they're going to be able to at least be extra aggressive early on.
Absolutely. There's definitely a lot less time to reevaluate your decisions in the previous match. And for some of these players, such as 72 Hours in Chap, whose landing spot got taken away, rip whaling, there's now a volcano there, and they have to, they haven't had the opportunity to practice their rotations, their landing spots, how to contest, where to go for mobility, and they're going to have a couple of minutes in between games to reevaluate their decisions.
I mean, hell, like the thing is, they're used to playing in North America. They're used to playing with opponents they play week in and week out, right? So they're used to knowing where everyone's going to be dropping across the map. Now they're coming into the international tournament where things can change up. They'll be playing against people they never expected to be there. They're going to be challenged out at every corner of the map.
Well, that's one thing I want to touch on a little bit more, gentlemen. We talked about how this is the international tournament. This is one of the biggest ever international tournaments as far as nationalities being represented is concerned. We have 28 different nationalities, and we have the chance for a lot of these players to compete against what are known as the best in the world, when they're a kind of a little bit of an unknown quantity. We have players coming in from Brazil. We have South Korean players coming in. Literally from every single region of the world is being represented here. As we have a look at the players attending, but Speedy, is there any players in particular that you've got your eye on this tournament?
I'm definitely interested to see how the X2 twins perform. Jesse and Jordan. The only way to tell them apart is by their 90s.
Okay, we'll let you do that.
In Australia, do they do 90s backwards?
Yeah, counterclockwise.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's a good point. Like, these are two players we have to keep our eye on because they have that telepathic link between the two. Obviously, not going to be a real thing, at least depends on what you believe in, but that gives you the option to really play a different style and really show what Australia has to this table.
Absolutely. Jesse took home Australia Open, came in first, but now he's in the lobby with EU players, Mitro, and NA players, Saf and Bizzle, who performed really well in Secret Skirmish 2 weeks ago. And it's going to be really interesting to see how all these players in the same lobby kind of mesh and how the outcome shakes out.
And the thing is, we have our big names you mentioned, like your Safs, your Bizzle. With Saf in particular, he finished first place in duos in Secret Skirmish, second place in solos. But he had the most eliminations in duos, and he had the second most eliminations in the solos. He's been so consistent at that tournament, which is why I have him picked to probably win today.
And that's a great point as well, because, it's something that maybe we look back at the Secret Skirmish eliminations, they were a factor, but we looked at how Jakobs played last week. Those eliminations in this format are what changed games. So if he can repeat that kind of performance, that second can quite comfortably turn into a first.
And I think it might, actually. I mean, the thing is, there's so many big names here, but there's still some that just stand out beyond the rest. And then on the other side of that coin, right, we talk about the players that everyone knows about. What about the players that people don't know a ton about? Fa and History coming in from Brazil. This is a region where esports is probably like one of the most ingrained things within the culture. I think maybe like South Korea is the only country more ingrained in them. They have so many fans behind them. They are actually the best players in Brazil as well, and are representing themselves, representing their country. I think they're 100% a force to reckon with.
Absolutely. Also, players like FaxFox, who's generally known for landing tilted, going to contest some of those known players such as Aiden, maybe Nick Merckx. Definitely going to keep an eye on that.
And then there's another player we have to mention. The prodigy, Milan, just turned 16.
Yeah, there's always a young, whatever esport, like, it's one thing you learn, whatever esport you had, there is always a young god, and we've got our eyes on this guy, right?
And not only is he a prodigy for a reason, which we're going to see today, he plays on a potato laptop, if I'm not mistaken, at home. Like, this guy has been able to play in the worst conditions. Now coming here with, the top-of-line PCs, the monitors as well, I wonder how much better he's going to play now because of this.
Yeah, it's almost become a meme, right? Like Milan playing on a potato, like a little dinky laptop.
Do you think he requested specifically like a laptop to play on instead of the PC here?
I think he tried. I think he tried.
I want to talk about Season 8, though, because obviously we had Season 8, the update dropped just a few days ago now. Bit of time for these players to adjust. They've had a few games on it, but maybe not as much as they potentially would have liked. But talk to me, Speedy, about some of the changes on the map, maybe for some of the people at home who haven't had the opportunity to catch up with Season 8.
So if you've been living under a rock for the past 48 hours, there is a volcano now on the map.
It's a massive volcano.
It's a massive volcano. There's a lot of mobility being added to that side of the region. Cannons, volcanic vents that launch you up into the air with redeploy. You just get around the area. There's pirate outposts all over the map now, and like I mentioned before, Wailing Woods, RIP, gone. So now a lot of these players that landed on the northeastern side of the map have to change their drop spots, have to live try to contest, try to make new rotations using a new format.
And not only changes to the map, I mentioned it before, the Stormwing now being out of the equation when it comes to this tournament and to come into Season 8. If you're one of those players who heavily relied on, hey, let's find a Stormwing early on, I want to play safe until top 15, top 20, then go for placement points, well, now you're forced to take a lot more engagements early on than you never expected to, and that's going to hurt you so much.
That's right. You can't camp in the air in a Stormwing to get top 10 placement anymore. Now, you have to rely entirely on your ground rotation game. Launchpads, rifts are still in the game. But yeah, it's a completely different meta shift in terms of mobility. You have to use drift boards, you have to use those vents, you have to use anything you can get your hands on now. I'm
hoping people bring a pirate cannon actually towards the later stage of the game and just see everyone blasting out of those. Also, a change we haven't touched on is the drop rate for like the quality AR has actually been dropped. It's been decreased. Epic got, I think, one of the biggest hits, so it's a little bit harder to get the extra damage in. Legendary didn't get changed around too much, and that's an important factor when we get into what weapons you're going to have to fight. But the biggest change for me has to be the Infinity Dab got increased from 11 hours duration to 12.
Huge.
That is massive buff.
I've got a challenge for you, Jason. If you start now, I mean, me and Speedy can kind of carry this on. If you start now, we'll let you know when 12 hours is done. Are you good with that?
I could. I just don't dab.
Okay,
it's
fair
just
enough.
not me. It's not my
fair
style.
enough. Some of us do, some of us don't. And anyway, Speedy, another thing I want to talk about, you talk about how players' drops are changing and how their rotations are going to change. How do you feel like the players are going to react that have had to find these new drop spots very quickly? Do you think they're going to go to something maybe they've been more comfortable with before and kind of maybe dropped into some of those areas? Or do you think that they might kind of risk some of these new areas to drop in, having had a little bit of practice, a little bit of time under their belts on the map?
So this is the first time most of these players have been in the same lobby. A lot of common drop spots are going to be overlapping. 3/4 of the map kind of remain the same. There's only that northeastern region that's kind of like a question mark. But they haven't had a lot of time to really practice it. So I think they're going to be learning live, learning as they go. And I mean, yesterday they were practicing and they were like, I can't find an uncontested spot. So I definitely expect them to, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for sure.
Good. Good. They need a challenge. Like, for me personally, if you want to call yourself the best in the world, you have to be able to adapt. You got Season 8 coming out. You're going to have to maybe change up your location. But I think in the end, everyone is generally confident in dropping anywhere on the map. They're just more confident at those specific spots. So I would assume they're still going to be fine overall.
I think that's going to make it interesting for me as well. It's just these first few games where these players are dropping certain areas. Say we have a couple of the big names just so happen to drop next to each other. That could be a big change because we've seen how one single game and one amount of points that you gain in one of these rounds can hugely affect your final standing. Yeah. You say that Saf and Bizzle land next to each other at the start, and everyone's like, okay, like one of these guys might die here, and then all of a sudden there are no points on the board and not the points that you want. The changes, they changed the meta like so significantly that, as you say, learning on the fly is going to be so important for these guys. And one thing I wanted to ask you, Speedy, is there any players that that adapt quicker than others, that sort of when the start of these seasons kick off, that all of a sudden they're like, okay, we pick it up straight away, we know where we want to go, and can kind of adjust on the fly and really make it their own?
That's a tough one because you never really want to change up your drop spot, going into a major tournament such as this. So they honestly have no choice. They have to adapt, and they have to adapt quickly.
And there's this whole mind game that goes on, this whole like mini game within the game that happens in Fortnite. We talked to Lothar, who was playing just last week, saying he dropped Viking Village. He won it 3 times out of like 4. And he's like, okay, there's no way someone's going to land here again next to me. And sure enough, next round, like 3 other players drop there. So there's this mind game of like, if I beat you, are you going to leave? Do you expect me to leave? And then you kind of have to deal with the situation given to you once you do drop down. Okay, let's talk about some more notable players. We kind of highlighted some of the players that are going to go under the radar a little bit. There's some ones to keep our eye on. Let's talk about the big boys. I mean, what are the big standout players for you, Speedy? Who are you expecting to be potentially lifting that trophy when all is said and done at the end of the solos?
Like I mentioned before, Saf did amazing in Secret Skirmish. I expect him to perform extremely well here.
I got a player for you we haven't talked about just yet, Mitro.
Ooh.
#1 earner in EU, 9th overall. That just shows the difference between NA and EU. This is his chance to not only win the whole tournament, but I think more importantly for him, to go up against 72 hours. Like that's a victory in its own, right? Forget the trophy, forget the prize money. He wants his chance to go up against his rival.
That's the rivalry we all want to see happen.
Oh yeah, and I can't wait for it because it's going to be epic. You know, whichever one of those wins is going to be celebrating the chair.
And a couple of players I want to talk about as well that were kind of challenging that tilted. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to leave it to you. I'm going to let the story tell itself, gentlemen. Do you know why? Because it's time to get into game number 1, baby. Katowice, I hope you're ready for this one. Round number 1 is underway. Gentlemen, take it away.
Oh, man. So, Facts Fox, we wanted to look at this man in particular, and I'm a little bit disappointed off the bat here. At least in solos, I'll say this, though, Speedy. We talked about him, and he's been so vocal about how often he wants to go with tilted, but he's given it up off the bat. So adaptations, as we were just talking on the desk, we're seeing players do that, at least here in solos so far today.
I 100% expected him to drop tilted, but it looks like he's opting to go into one of his most populated, more contested areas now, the pirate ship.
You're going to have Thunk Bomb there, as you can see, towards that north-hand side as well. He's going to have at least a couple of chests off the guy. Actually, 3 of them. Looks like he's actually read into this position quite well because triple chests off the bat. That's going to get him loaded up relatively well. You can see he's got the redeploy in there. He's got the SMG, a grenade launcher as well. 2 minis.
The only thing he's missing in this loadout is a shotgun. He can't really contest someone close range, but maybe he could pop a couple of grenades at an opponent, get some shield tags.
Well, let's see. So, unfortunately for him, he's not going to be going tilted. We're not going to see the battle of him up against Aiden. We already do have our first eliminations rolling in. Jarl's going to be dropped off the bat here. Fnatic going to be down 1 player. But yeah, I'm a little bit sad to not see him, but at the same rate, I'm proud of him to adapt his style, right? To change things up.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what he can do in this pirate ship area. Stompy over here in Frosty Flights.
Yeah, so it looks like he's been relatively uncontested so far. Still has that chest up above him if he does need it. We have Demo up against Eric off the bat as well. So a little bit of building going on now, and it looks like Demo, actually both players not going to have any sort of shields. Demo's the one applying this pressure.
Absolutely. The reason you land here in Diner is because you don't want to get contested, but didn't really work out according to plan.
All right, so while we do see this fight breaking down as Nate takes down Shinken, just to update you as well around the map, we actually do have a relatively good spread across. We got a couple of players already being dropped as well. I'm trying to go over the list. If there's any notable names that you
Demo taking down Eric. A beautiful pump.
Yep, very, very beautiful. We see Saf as well. Flexi, German player here out of Gambit, going to be hiding inside of a bush in the meantime. And just to remind you guys at home, this is a different format. Every elimination matters. Every elimination gets you 5 points on the board, and Demo already has his first.
The bush strat's a classic, too. Just kind of hide in there and hope your opponent doesn't see you. Try to sneak around. Smeef really low here.
That's actually Milan's duo, the 16-year-old prodigy that we're talking about before. He's got a legendary compact SMG. He's got the shotgun as well. He's got a decent kit, but what he doesn't have, Speedy, is the health to work with here, especially up against the Vic.
No, he needs to get out of here, and he needs to get out of here fast.
Well, it looks like he's going to be trying to do so. As you can see now, the Vic going to be taking down some of these balls, replacing it for himself, and you can already see there's a major battle happening here on top of things. Windwalker now going to be up against Power, so Jarl's teammate here out of Fnatic.
Looks like Power had recently taken out another opponent. Windwalker just kind of there waiting for third party.
Well, the big names that we expected to be looking at over the course of today, Speedy, are still alive and kicking.
Yeah, Power just kind of disengaging there with the drift board. It's a nice little mobility item to get you in and out of situations as fast as possible. You have Nate Hill kind of off to the side there. Kuna was...
Yeah, it's going to be up an interesting fight here. He actually does have the higher position up against him. He's just looking for that shot. He's got the shotgun. He's trying to go for the replacer, trying to take down multiple walls so he can get control of it.
Marana is so weak here, and Kuna knows it. He gets into his box. The trap goes down.
And actually, he got the great little replacer. He's not getting the elimination just yet. Another place to become. He will take down Marana. So that'll be his first elimination. We heard a trap go down in the last second there. A couple of clingers as well, even sported it.
The disrespect.
Or respect, I want to call it. No, but disrespect definitely there. You have Myth now, a player that we haven't even talked about over the course of today, representing TSM. He's got Cloud as his partner for tomorrow when we get into our duos. He's got Kripa to fight with here, to contend with. But so far, only 9 eliminations have gone through.
Absolutely. Myth's landing spot is typically Lonely Lodge. Didn't get affected by the Season 8 patch, so nice little rotation there that he's used to.
You see Tixi able to get above Zypan here. Now, if you're Zypan in this situation, Speedy, how do you kind of fight your way out of this?
This is a tough situation. You're just kind of sitting there, turtling, trying to disengage. It looked like he's going for the disengage, actually. Meanwhile, you know, his opponent's just holding high ground.
He's given him the high ground, though, so he's given him the respect. which I think is really important to see.
Yeah, none of these players really want to engage each other. You can see by the way they're moving around. They just kind of got into an awkward situation where they ran into each other, and they said, hey, you know, let's just go our separate ways here.
Yeah, let's just back away. Let's just play for the later on stages of this one. Myth still looking for Kripa, and Kripa seems to be the one wanting to take the fight here.
Yeah, so even though Kripa has high ground, Myth is healthy here.
And he's making the push happen. Only 8 builds, 7 builds left here for Kripa as he's using all of his materials for this engagement. Down to 9 HP. He's got a first aid kit, but the stink bomb comes through. And it looks like the stink bomb will take him down. Myth gets the elimination, and more importantly, gets his first on the board.
I'd love to see it. Myth performing well in a tournament environment.
Kaiser up against Jesse. You wanted to see the X2 boys. We're going to have our first little inkling of a fight here. Looks like he's going to eventually just back away here. He's got a couple of clingers. I like to see these clingers. We haven't really had many of them go off in the early stages, but as we know, transitions that mid game, attentions that late game is where things are really interesting. Now Bowman going to be under a couple of shots here up against Beehive.
3 players up here on the mountain. It's kind of an awkward situation. You can't really disengage. There's no more storm wings. You can't leave. There's a couple of zip lines that you can take, but you know, overall Beehive just kind of holding on to that high ground.
There are 3 players, though. I wonder if Beehive knows there's a player like pretty much directly under him. The thing is, he's fine. He's in the circle for now.
Yeah, there's no rush. I mean, Beehive has a rift. He can get out of here. Skype has a rift. They can both get out of here whenever they want. They're in zone. They have plenty of time.
Funk Bomb and Demo, 2 players I didn't expect to be going head-to-head this early on now, Speedy. But it doesn't seem like we're going to have a fight break off just yet.
Yeah, so Funk Bomb and Nate Hill, both duos, currently in solos, but they kind of have a more passive endgame style. So I definitely don't expect them to see them pushing aggressively towards any situation that they can avoid.
Well, maybe not them, but FaxFox is here in the vicinity, and we know him to be very, very aggressive. He has a launch pad if he wants to use it. But again,
Imagine just went down in the kill feed there.
Yeah, Zypan does secure that elimination. But I like to see this. We have 4 players currently in this vicinity, and again, I kind of agree with you. I kind of want to, you know, bring to life your sentiments again. I don't think we're going to see any sort of engagement just yet. Myth now potentially trying to come in as well. Just pick up the quad, going to be looking to come around. Jordan now, the other X2 player with Seth hot on his heels. He's got a decent kit to use too. He's got a slurp in there, a couple of small shields.
Yeah, he's looking good. Definitely playing for endgame. It's kind of what we expected to see, right? The first game, everyone just feeling each other out. You know, aggressive players like FaxFox, no eliminations yet, first circle in. Typical of what, you know, a first game should kind of look like.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Stink Bomb coming in. He knows there's a player there now taking a little bit of damage. Shows it ahead of him, trying to catch him off guard. Seth is just being pressured as Jordan's looking to actually close it on this elimination potentially. He's got the shotgun for up close play. He's going for the replace. He gets it. He goes for the edit as well, but that's a great escape here by Seth. But for how long? Actually, Seth actually escapes and manages to turn around to take down Jordan with a great little play. Uses the ramp to block the shot, right? Then gets above him and drops.
I absolutely expected Jordan to win that engagement. He had the shield or the health tags on him. He had the advantage. He had the high ground, and Seth ended up turning it around.
Now X8 going to be tuning in with him here as his kit. Yeah, looking all right for now. So having a little bit of a strong start, which is very important here. Dementos be on Team Secret now, going for a little bit of engagement. Up against Saf, and Saf is the player I have to win this whole thing, to win this whole tournament solos. And no! Saf goes down! The commentator's curse comes through. My boy Saf, I'm sorry, I apologize. But Dementos, that was a fantastic shot.
I'm so upset. I really wanted to see Saf in the end game and show us what he could do.
We got a pirate cannon.
We have a cannon.
We got a pirate cannon. I want to see someone get an elimination with this. Hell, I want to see someone blast out of it like Team Rocket and get it across the other side of the map. And now Provoked is going to be on the high ground. He's got Vilix and BloodX under him.
It's kind of funny that we see these players setting up here. They know there's a cannon. Really good in case they don't get circled. Just kind of launch out of there. If you're in a cannon, you can get 100 or 260 meters in one direction.
And you can do a lot of damage with it too. You can do, I think it's 100 direct, it's like 50 splash. That's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage that you can inflict on your opponent. Their Vilix, really weak.
Yeah, I think it might be time to use the Rift here to escape this one, just to go for the first aid. We got the Storm Surge coming through. He's actually below the threshold. Now he's going to be above it, luckily for him. But the pressure's going to be coming through, and Provoked going to get that elimination, get his first now.
Provoke ends up getting that elimination nicely. Unfortunately, Villix did not use the Rift and did not rotate out.
Yeah.
Just kind of sticking around, hoping that he would get lost in the sauce, but it didn't end up working for us.
I kind of wanted to see him actually use it, right? Because he had the first aids. He had the opportunity to retreat from here, heal back up, keep himself alive to get into that top 50 where he can start accumulating these points.
Yeah, the problem with using a Rift, especially at this phase of the game, is if someone sees you Rift, they know you're weak. So everyone in the lobby is going to start taking those AR shots at you. They've been co-baxing 5 hours a day, so they're definitely going to get some tags. He was weak, probably wouldn't have survived.
By the way, Envy, I did see on the activity feed yet again. I believe that's his second now so far. We haven't really talked about the Korean players just yet, but he's been doing some work so far. Able to get 10 points on the board. You can see Chap able to take down Poach. A little bit of a team elimination there with Liquid Boys, but, that's what's going to happen when it comes to solos.
The team betrayal. Hate to see it.
All right, well, we can see, though, people are starting to group up. Myth going to be still alive, as you can see. We got 0-7 as well, a player here from China from World Elite, going to be participating, still alive so far, as we're starting to trickle down, losing player by player. Flexi has gone down, by the way, a little bit early on, just to kind of get you up to date on the players we have had drop.
And kind of an interesting note, there's a lot of players setting up on this side of the map, especially around this, this mountain.
Right.
A lot of these players trying to get center zone, trying to get as close to some mobility items as possible so that if they don't get circle, they can move on out to the next area. So a lot of these players setting up on that pirate ship, like I mentioned before, making sure that they can use that cannon if they don't get the circle.
Oh,
and they do get the circle, so no rush.
You saw Zayt there towards the northern side, able to close in. He's actually the little purple arrow there on the minimap. Hupek, actually a player from Poland as well. He played last week, didn't really have the results that he was looking for, and the thing is, him and Skix were actually two of the players a lot of people were pointing out in particular that just didn't seem to really rise to the occasion last week, but here's a different chance.
Aim Hero, one of the Korean players here, he ended up dropping tilted. I guess his teammate, that might have been the reason. They might have flipped a coin.
Maybe.
Said Aim Hero.
Ooh, a lot of things coming through. Those Zextro gets on the board. The Vic gets on the board as well. And players are starting to drop like flies. This Aim Hero trying to live up to his name here, and he won't be able to. That'll be Hupek able to come up big. And now Camo.
Camo moving on in for the third party. Heard a lot of action. There's also Max Aliber, but Hupek is just going to shoot up there, and everyone's going to go their separate ways. So he's safe for now.
And Camo's pretty much ahead of the group so far in retreating from this position. Mitro. What can we say about you? We want to talk about you quite a bit. He looks like did get elimination. And then you see Stompy trying to come through, who could get third party from Mitro from the other side. Stompy's going to be in a very precarious position here, Speedy.
Camo, just locking in on him, not really firing. He wants to get into the circle here, but he gets tagged from the back.
He's got the Rift if he needs it. You can see Camo trying to bide his time. That's going to be Cloud walking around him here. Just going to be healing back up, get back to that 200 HP as the storm will start to shrink here.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to waste that Rift if you don't have to. So you just want to hold on to that until end game.
So here's the question for you, right? It's a line that everyone knows. Is it true if you don't use it, you lose it? In these situations when you're on so low HP, you just have to use the Rift, right? Like, the thing is, you're most likely not going to get elimination. You need to run to have another chance later on to maybe break into some points in the top 50.
It absolutely depends. You definitely want the Rift for endgame. You want it for those, far-moving circles. But we saw a player earlier. He didn't use the Rift. He ended up going down. So if you're in a tight spot, in a little pinch, you want to get out of there, you have to burn your mobility. You have to get out of there, and you have to live to fight another day.
Exactly, and I honestly, I would respect that play. Just unfortunate that we didn't see it.
TSM Cloud and TSM Myth,
right next to
neighbors
each other.
next to each other, duos tomorrow.
Yeah, well, they're enemies today, but they're friends tomorrow, or hopefully they'll be friends again tomorrow, as Bizzle does get elimination for himself. You see Stompy doesn't have the greatest kit in terms of weapons, but he does have the 2 Rifts, and he does have a lot of shields to use here as Cloud's being pressured by Airwax. Airwax's thing is, he's been a professional player in other games before in a MOBA. He's been playing at the top level, and I know Stress back there is looking at him to be one of the top performers over the course of this weekend.
Absolutely, Airwax, another day, another land.
Well provoked. Again, he's going to have the shotgun, the rifts. We see a lot of rifts in play technically at the moment. So when we get into those later stages, things are going to get extremely crazy. A lot of players actually still towards that Dusty Divot side and towards the southern side of the circles. So I'm imagining we're going to have here, Speedy, in a few moments, people start to transition here up north.
Yeah, the majority of the lobby is outside of the circle right now. Most of these players at the broken pirate outpost need to start going on in. I expect a launch pad going in. This is TSM taking out Kripa.
Yeah, good old myth. And then Seth as well. Nice little drop down. He actually catches his opponent off guard. He wasn't even looking towards him.
I always get nervous when I see them drop into a box. Traps could go down, could easily turn the other direction.
Yeah, and you don't want to be eliminated from a trap, at least in game one. Mitro as well, looking for the shot the window. I believe he did get that one. But now we've got Camo there. We've got Nate, Scram, Tomo from Alliance, Sakoner as well. Smeep off to the side. Again, the duo from Milan. And Animal, we haven't even touched on him just yet. I think Zacubus was saying he's a player he expects to do well.
You definitely want to keep an eye on Animal. Yesterday during the practice matches, him and his teammate Aspect actually won 2 practice games back-to-back.
Wow. That's a good sign. That's an amazing sign.
That is an amazing sign.
I just hope they didn't peak too early in the tournament, you know? Get those 2 wins yesterday and then not be able to perform when it comes to the actual matches.
Absolutely. Hopefully the adrenaline slept them and they're nice, calm, and collected. Ghost Aiden, they're on the side, just trying to get into zone.
Yeah, good to see him still alive and kicking. I believe you mentioned before Aim Hero was the player that was over towards Tilted, so it looks like they're just disengaged from each other. Storm Surge in effect as well.
So Storm Surge, if a player is, you know, for example here, Provoked has 265 above the threshold.
Yeah.
He's in a nice position. He doesn't have to worry about it, but for the player who doesn't have a lot of player damage dealt, he's going to start getting his health ticked. In a really tough position, he's definitely going to want to start pushing or laying down some fire. Well, otherwise, he's going to be out of the tournament.
Yeah, and, well, at least out of the first round. Let's say he's out of the tournament. We're not kicking him out yet, Speedy.
Out of the game.
Yeah, out of the game. We can see Aiden going to be taking high ground here as we see a lot of players trying to build on and add their own little rooms to this giant castle being built. Milan has fallen, unfortunately. But again, just match number 1. Just turned 16 about a day, or actually not a day, so about a week ago, if I'm not mistaken. And Jarkos, the man that came in as the wild card into this, didn't even know he's going to be playing here today in this Solos tournament. He's still alive here as we're about to approach that top 50.
I'm definitely excited to see him still alive. I definitely want to see how he does. I believe I see Liquid 72 Hours there still alive as well. So he managed to, you know, get a safe drop and rotate on into the circle.
Jarkos has to be careful, though. He's got Jesse off to his side. He's got Skix under them, but we're at these stages where everyone's going to be on everyone. It's about hitting these shots, getting the eliminations where you can get them. You see Jarkos still just looking for a couple of shots here in between. He's got a launch pad, so there's no need for him to rush into the circle just yet.
Yeah, the ideal situation here is that someone else puts down their launch pad and you just take their launch pad. You don't really want to put down your own.
Yeah.
You want to save it for endgame, save it for that, you know, those long moving circles. And most of these players over here by the diner definitely needs to start thinking about that rotation.
Cloud has fallen, by the way, so TSM going to be losing another player so far in
Kuna's still in it.
Yeah, he's still around, and Zeke as well. Like the thing is, I don't mean it to sound bad, but there was a lot of underperforming out of players that we saw in the Polish tournament that we expected to be into the top levels. Now going into this tournament, which is, I mean, unarguably a more difficult tournament for everyone, it's going to be even more harder for him to perform, right?
Yeah.
You would imagine, but he's been able to break top 50 so far.
Yeah, players like Zeke, who maybe didn't perform as well as they might have wanted in last week's tournament, definitely a chip on their shoulder, definitely want to prove it to themselves and everyone here.
Jarkos has gone down. The Brazilians have struck. History gets his elimination on the board, eliminating our wild card player. And look at this. We see, I believe there's cannons coming through.
Liquid Chap still alive. I believe I saw Razaru. Energy Zate, another NA player that you want to keep an eye on. Definitely one of the top. I believe this is Saf's teammate.
Yep, Saf and Zate. Different orgs, but friends nonetheless here. But yeah, we're even hearing some bottle rockets going off here. You can see Zate trying to get some high ground, though. He's not going to have the ultimate high ground. It's going to be Alpha, the one to have this, looking for some shot. He's got a couple of clingers, and it's not very often, Speedy, we see clingers last this long into the game.
No, probably just saving it here for endgame. You definitely want to save those clingers for, you know, some easy, quick cleanup kills so that you can get your HP up. Energy Zate just kind of holding that wall.
Getting a couple of rockets off here or there too. Trying to spammed out of Alpha.
Alpha just not letting up. And when you're in high ground like this, you definitely don't want to let up. You want to get as many tags as possible. Ghost Bizzle's still alive.
Well, this is now the question as we get to as Funk Bomb has been eliminated. The Storm is going to start to move here momentarily, and this is where people need to have that material to build, to get across, to be able to maintain some sort of positions. I want to see how Alpha is going to try to maintain this high ground. He's going to have to be very careful in how he builds. Those launch pads as well. I think everyone's going to be jumping on top of this here, Speedy. You can see the pressure starting to tick in here. A lot of elimination, a lot of damage being done. Skix has fallen. Sakona takes down Nate. Faye's going to be out, I believe, with their 2 players. And Bizzle, he's just trying not to get pushed on. He's trying to not be aggressive on. He's looking to retreat away from this one, looking for another fight. He might be able to get it here. He might be able to get this elimination done. He's still looking for the damage the building has come in. He's down to 50 HP. He can lose this fight potentially, Speedy.
Bizzle's so weak here, dropping into his box. He ends up turning it around.
Takes down Little J. Zextro as well going to fall, one of the most aggressive players we have in Fortnite.
Liquid Vivid, Vinny still alive. Camo still alive. Bizzle just trying to get his HP up after that engagement.
I think Nikoff, well, he died to the Storm Surge. A little unfortunate for there. Not going to be in the best situation. Demo's going to fall there, as you see from the low ground. Jamside, where did he even come from? He's somehow been able to take the ultimate high ground away from everyone as the Storm continues to move through. Look, everyone with Crazy Llama not going. Japan has lost out a player. And Jamside, he's got 3 eliminations. That's 15 points already. Can he maintain this spot, though?
Jamside with 16 builds left. He can't maintain this high ground. He actually gets to drop down 10 more builds. He has to get an elimination here. 105 pump going on in.
He's looking for Zayd. He's too focused on Zayd. He's being shot from a couple of different directions. You can see Bizzle there towards the low ground. Spieth, Vinny. You have Skeet to the left-hand side with Camo and Animal. Zayd's fallen. He's now dropped out of this one. Jamside going to be floating back in to retain this high ground position.
Bizzle trying to take high ground. Bizzle ends up taking the high ground from Jamside. Jamside, no builds left.
This is tough. How do you get out of this position? He's got the maximum shield he can possibly get.
He has a launch pad, but he can't even put it down because he has no builds.
Oh, he's looking to escape this, looking to maybe build down through this tower as the Storms and eventually close in on him. Tomo is looking very good, back to full HP. Vinny on a sliver of health left. He's just trying to stay alive towards the lower end side.
Jamside ended up going down, but Ghost Bizzle maintains the high ground.
Oh, he's trying to. He's got enough builds to do it. He's got a first aid kit if he needs as well. Animal has fallen as Smeef's able to get his elimination, being brought in by Milan as his dual partner and doing some serious work here. It's Bizzle on the high ground, able to help get the damage.
Goes down 1v1.
Skeet's the one to get these eliminations. Down to that 1v1. He's going to drop down, take a little bit of damage from this one, but can he get this elimination? 14 builds left to go. He's got the shotgun. He knows where his enemy's going to be. But the time is ticking away. He goes for the jump shot, actually on the build as well, trying to look for any sort of damage he can engage with before he goes for the drop, before he goes
Bizzle with no more builds.
Well, now he's going to have to engage into this one, right, Speedy? You can see towards the
He has to drop down. He has to drop down.
50 HP left. He's still trying to sprint. Yes, G with 19 HP. Bizzle takes the first victory out of today.
Bizzle, our secret skirmish, first place winner 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
you love to see it.
You love to see it. You love to see that consistency as well. We didn't get to talk about this at the start of the show, but consistency is amazing. But sometimes you need to have those standout games. But hell, if you're consistently in top 3 like this, consistency is perfect for you.
Absolutely. We saw Bizzle there primed and ready to retake high ground once Jamside ended up with no more mats. Took the high ground from there. It was just a piece of cake for him.
And when you're playing like this, right, this is the first game of the day in solos, and you just won the first match. You have to be so hyped and pumped now into the next.
Dude, I'm absolutely hyped. Well, good start to the day here, Cam Vincent. You enjoy game number 1, right? Hey, they're warming up. They're warming up. Bizzle's not warming up, though. He's come out the gates hot, gentlemen. A player that we talked about a lot at the start of the day, how he's currently second in the standings as far as earnings is concerned. What a way to start the day, though, for him. The victory royale and playing that final situation perfectly.
One step closer to overtaking Tfue. One step closer. That's like the first little thing.
It's a tiny little step.
It's a tiny little step, but it's one of the 7 he needs, I guess.
Say. Yeah, that's very, very true. Speedy, obviously, one thing that stood out to me, maybe in comparison to what we saw last weekend, was the amount of early eliminations that we saw in comparison to last weekend. Last weekend, we were getting down to like the final couple of zones. We still had around 80 to 90 players left in those lobbies. I think when we got towards the final couple of circles there, we had around 50, 60, and all players seemed much more willing to take those engagements.
Absolutely. I believe some of these players were definitely paying close attention to last weekend, right? And they wanted to incorporate that W key, that aggressive gameplay into this tournament. And it showed, 50 players moving circle. Definitely night and day versus like 80 players moving circle last week.
I think it's confidence as well. I think you're seeing all the top players who maybe have not had a ton of experience with this format they're willing to, or actually not even willing, they're just that confident. They play that kind of style. It doesn't matter what format you give them, it doesn't matter what weapons you give them. They're going to try to get aggressive against you, and they're going to force you to make the mistake, because Fortnite is a game all about mistakes. If you force someone to misbuild, or if you get above them and they aren't able to defend themselves correctly, you get those elims. So instead of playing defensively, play the style, play aggressive. Force them to be the ones to defend.
Absolutely. If your opponent's making a mistake, you have to capitalize on that, and we saw a lot of players do that.
All right, gentlemen. Well, one man who didn't make many mistakes in our opening game is the man who picks up the first victory royale of the day. Adam's down on the floor with Bizzle.
Thanks very much, buddy. I'm joined by Bizzle right now, a Game 1 winner. Bizzle, that was intense. That was amazing. You must feel like $1 million after that very first game. Walk us through the end game there. How important was the high ground?
It was definitely important. You saw a lot of people low ground and getting stuck with zone, so it was really important to stay high and stay away from all the chaos.
When you come into that kind of final circle, there's 40 players, like top-tier players altogether. How does it feel to play? How does mindset change? How does it feel to be in that moment?
I'm playing against the best players all the time, and it's nothing different. Just play your game, and it's proven to work. I've been winning games for a while now, and it just goes my way most of the time.
I've been playing in front of this live audience, this amazing audience here as well, playing against these top players. How much of an experience is for you as well as a player being here in this major, enjoying being here with everyone today?
This is insane. This is probably the biggest crowd I've ever seen at a Fortnite event, so it's a first time for me, and I'm just glad to see all the people enjoying it.
Well, Bizzle, you are the Game 1 winner. Confidence, I think you got, four eliminations there? You got yourself the win as well. Points are starting to tally up. Confidence must be sky high right now for the rest of the tournament.
Confidence is high, but it's a big series, and I need to play good throughout the whole series. Still got 6 games to go, and hopefully I can take another 1 or 2 wins.
Well, one more time, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for your Game 1 winner. It's Bizzle! Best of luck with the rest of the tournament, buddy. Mark, back to you guys. What a great start to this competition.
Fantastic stuff, and great to hear from Bizzle there. A couple of things that stood out for me. Experience, saying he's been in these situations so many times now. He plays against the best in the world all the time. These endgame situations don't phase it.
And that's, I think, so important to realize. Like, to be really good at Fortnite, you have to experience all these situations time and time again to learn how to deal with them. And for him, it just seemed like, even in the interview, it was like another day at work, right? It was like, all right, another game, easy. It didn't seem like he was flustered. It didn't seem like he was, like super excited. I mean, obviously he won, but he realized, as he said in the interview, that's just game 1. There's still 6 more to come.
Bizzle there just trying to contain his excitement. I don't know if you were watching, but like he is always primed and ready to retake high ground at all moments. He knows the guy up top might run out of mats soon, and as soon as that happens, as soon as he senses some sort of weakness, he pounces. So we see this every single game, definitely going for the high ground, or at least being positioned to go for the high ground.
So obviously one thing we should point out as well is, we have North America taking home the first win of the day. We were hoping for. I'm just saying, obviously, I didn't want to say it because you're stood next to me, and I wasn't looking forward to the rapturous reaction to me saying that. It is an international tournament. One fight that really stood out for me, and we were watching it back as we do see some of these replays coming in from our game number 1. Eric versus Demo at the start. I think this is the first competitive battle at a live event that Eric had. And he went down to Demo. Demo took that battle and absolutely put him on his back. He actually chunked him with a pump to kick things off. How do you come back from that? When you're going up against one of the best players in the world, it's your first time in a lobby with these players at a live event, and you go down in your first battle against one of the best in the world. It's a tough one to bounce back from, right? You kind of have, that's a learning on the job at its best.
I think you just kind of forget about it, right? You can't let any one of those eliminations or any one of your misplays or missteps put you on tilt. You have to keep your focus throughout the entire series. It was just one game, right? It's just one round. It's not a big deal. You still have 6 more to go. There's no rush to perform at like the top level just yet. And I think he was happier to go down to someone like Demo than to someone he didn't recognize as well.
Yeah, I think that's very true. It's a very good way to look at it. That's going to do it all for our game number 1, though, ladies and gentlemen. Bizzle takes home your first victory royale of the day. We're going to go for a break right now. When we're back, it's time for game number 2. it.